Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the most powerful and honestly mysterious psychedelic compounds known to science, N N-Dimethyltryptamine, or as pretty much everyone calls it, DMT. Imagine not just seeing things a little differently, but feeling like you've been completely transported to another place. People who've experienced it don't describe it as a distortion of our world, but a total replacement of it. It's this shift from normal awareness into a state so immersive, so profound, that a lot of people say it feels, and I'm quoting here, more real than real.
So what kind of chemical could possibly do that? Well, the answer is weirdly close to home. It's a molecule that's found in literally thousands of plants and animals, and, get this, it's even synthesized right inside our own bodies. We're talking everywhere from our lungs to our brains.
Okay, so if this molecule is all around us and even inside of us, what exactly is it? Let's start with the basics. Let's break down what this so-called spirit molecule is and, where it even came from. So, right off the bat, you can see DMT is a Schedule I substance. Officially, that means the government considers it to have a high potential for abuse and no accepted medical use. But here's the massive paradox. This illegal substance is absolutely everywhere in nature. And it's this contradiction that makes its legal status a point of some really intense scientific debate. So its modern story starts in a lab, way back in 1931. It was just created, a chemical on a shelf. But it took another 15 years before we even realized it existed in nature. And the final piece of the puzzle? That didn't fall into place until 1956, when a pretty brave Hungarian psychiatrist named Stephen Schara actually injected himself with it, and was the first to document its profound effects. So a full 25-year journey from a lab creation to a consciousness shifter.
So what is actually going on inside your brain to kick off this trip to an alternate reality? I mean, how does one little molecule just flip that switch?
Well, it all comes down to a really clever trick of molecular mimicry. If you look at this slide, you'll see that DMT looks incredibly similar to a neurotransmitter we all know, serotonin, the molecule that helps regulate our mood. This disguise lets DMT act like a skeleton key, fitting perfectly into the serotonin locks in our brain. And when it turns that key, especially in the parts of our brain that handle high-level thinking and perception, DMT just unleashes this cascade of changes. It's not just tweaking brain activity. It is effectively hijacking the entire neural machine that builds our reality from one moment to the next. So the first thing that happens is this dramatic collapse of the brain's normal, orderly communication. It's like the brain's usual chain of command, that top-down management structure, just suddenly dissolves. Everything becomes flatter, less organized. And this is the amazing part, out of that chaos, something incredible emerges. The brain doesn't just shut down, it reorganizes. Its activity actually becomes more complex, more interconnected. Scientists call this the entropic brain, a state where the brain is suddenly exploring this huge, vast, new landscape of patterns and connections it normally never would. And this change in brain waves just perfectly mirrors what people say they experience. You see that alpha drop? Think of alpha waves as your brain's spam filter, right? They block out all the irrelevant noise. Well, when they disappear, that filter is just gone. And at the exact same time, you see the rise of these slower, dreamlike waves, which tells us the brain is switching from processing the outside world to generating a really rich internal one. So, okay, we've seen the mechanics, but this brings us to the experience itself, the breakthrough. What do people actually say they see and feel when they cross over into that other space? Pretty much everyone agrees the journey starts with this explosion of impossible geometry. People talk about being shot through these tunnels of light, just surrounded by the most vivid, complex patterns you can imagine. Spirals, lattices, kaleidoscopic shapes moving everywhere. And here's the wild part. Scientists don't think these are just random hallucinations. Think about it like this. If you shake a tray of sand, it naturally forms these cool ripple patterns. Well, in the same way, when the visual cortex is shaken up by DMT, it seems to default to its most basic operating principles, generating what are called Turing patterns. What people might be seeing is literally the raw mathematical architecture of their own brain. But then you get past the geometry, and that's where you find what is, for a lot of people, the most profound and frankly baffling part of the whole thing. Encounters with what seem to be intelligent entities.
And what's just astonishing, as you can see from the data here, is the consistency. Across different cultures, different people, the same archetypes show up again and again. I mean, look at that top one. Almost a third of people report meeting these benevolent guides or helpers.
So all of this leads to a pretty huge paradox. On one hand, you've got this incredibly disruptive substance with some very serious risks. But on the other hand, you have something with just unbelievable therapeutic potential. And let's be really clear about the risks. Physically, DMT can cause dangerous spikes in your heart rate and blood pressure. And psychologically, especially if you're not in a controlled, safe setting, the experience can be absolutely terrifying, really destabilizing. So these are not things to take lightly at all. But then you flip the coin and you look at the potential rewards and it's just staggering. Look at this number. In a recent clinical trial, 57% of patients who had severe treatment-resistant depression were in complete remission 3 months after just a single dose. The idea is that DMT's ability to rewire the brain, what scientists call neuroplasticity, lets people break out of these really rigid, negative loops of thought. This incredible duality just forces this massive question. So where do we go from here? What does the future possibly hold for the research and the regulation of this incredibly powerful molecule? Well, one of the biggest new breakthroughs is a protocol they're calling DMTX. See, the problem with studying DMT has always been that the whole experience is over in like 10 minutes. But as you can see here, by using a really precisely controlled IV infusion, scientists can now hold a person in that breakthrough state for much longer. This lets them map that alternate reality and its effects on the brain with a level of detail that was just totally impossible before. So in the end, DMT just doesn't fit into any of our neat little boxes. Is it a dangerous drug? Is it a revolutionary medicine? Or could it be a key to understanding consciousness itself? As science keeps pulling back the curtain on this spirit molecule, the answer seems to be that, well, it might just be all three.